On this week's episode of Gritty Birds, I'm talking to Dana Jansen, aka Dana Buoy. The songwriter spent a decade with experimental folk rock band Akron Family before settling in Portland, Oregon. He calls his music tropicore, infectious positive pop. With 2 EPs under his belt, Dana is focused on a life of balanced art and health, and working on a new record with the Dana Buoy crew.
You know, like band sound, you know what I mean? It's not so much just a guy in his bedroom, it's more of like an actual band, which is exciting for me because, like, you know, collaborating with people is one of the best parts of making music, you know? Like, everything you find, it's like most often by accident, and you just stumble upon something better than you would have, you know, ever thought you could do on your own, you know?
That's on this week's episode of Gritty Birds. My name is Jenny Wren Stotrup. Every week, I share a new story about the music industry, straight from the voice of a successful artist or industry professional. Want to know the secrets of the grittiest professionals in the music industry? Stay tuned. This is Gritty Birds on KXRY, Portland X-Ray FM, 107.1 and 91.1. My name is Jenny Wren Stotrup. This week, I'm talking to tropicore artist Dana Buoy. Dana has been writing and performing as a solo artist since moving to Portland a few years ago after stepping away from the band Akron Family.
Well, the project started in 2012, just me in a bedroom with a computer and like a couple different, like, small, like, M-Box or whatever, you know, just like trying new things. I had an MPC, which was super fun. It's just like a music production center thing, and you can like chop up samples and like make beats, and it was a lot of fun. And so just like doing the whole found sound thing that I used to do with Akron Family forever, you know, we would always, it was kind of a big part of our sound. So I kind of translated a little bit of that, but more into more like a pop sense, you know, kind of, because I just wanted to, like, I don't know, I just wanted to have that avenue of interesting sounds put into more of a mainstream kind of pop sound, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the whole thing in the first record. But then after that, it took, we did a couple tours, Justin and me, just as a duo with a couple drum machines and stuff, and went out with Youth Lagoon for a summer, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow, you went out with
Those guys, yeah.
The
Vivid. Boise represent. No, they were great dudes, man.
Fantastic. Dana moved to Brooklyn nearly 15 years ago as Akron Family came together. The band included fellow members Seth Olinsky and Miles Seaton.
I guess it was about a 10-year run.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 2002, back in New York, we got together. Seth and Miles were working at this Cosi. It's like a coffee shop bagel place. Actually, it's not a bagel, it's a squiggle.
A squiggle. What's a squiggle?
A squiggle.
A squiggle.
A square bagel.
Okay. All right.
That's their claim to fame.
Okay.
And it's a franchise sort of thing where they've got them in Philly and like all over New York. And anyway, they were working there. Seth was a barista. Miles was making pizzas or something, I think. And they just ended up, you know, chatting and stuff. And then I moved there. I was upstate and in Ithaca, and then I moved down there. And yeah, and then it just happened, which is awesome.
With 3-part harmonies and found sound, the experimental band built a name for itself in the company of artists like Animal Collective. They released several albums together, touring extensively before going their separate ways.
Although that project kind of like we hung up the hat at the end of 2012, around there, I think, maybe 13 or something. We did our last tour. It was over in Japan. We went there for the 3rd time, and it was perfect. Like, I love that country. I love playing over there. And then but yeah, it just felt like a nice natural place to sort of tie it up because none of us live in the same town. You know, we haven't lived in the same town since 2006. I mean, a couple of us. Miles and I were still in New York for a while, and then Seth left, and then Miles left, and then I left with Seth to go to Portland to come here, and then Seth left here to go back down to L.A., or Joshua Tree, rather. And so it's like, you know, we just kept moving all over the place. And it was easy enough to kind of get together and, you know, write a record, but it didn't feel like we were like, it wasn't quite as organic, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it was just harder. It became harder to continue to do it, so.
Let's take a listen to a song from Akron Family. This is Island.
coast of Mexico, there's an island with tropical sand and boats and humans who light the nighttime sky with fire. I wanna color the sky.
That was a clip of Island from Akron Family's 2011 release on Dead Oceans, The Cosmic Birth and Journey of Shinju TNT. Today I'm talking to Dana Buoy. Dana learned a lot about band relationships from their long run.
It's like a relationship with your significant other. You know, if you don't maintain it and like, you know, invest in it in the ways that you should to kind of keep it healthy and active, then it's just going to, you know, run amok, which we obviously were young and didn't know how to be mature about certain things, or even just have conversations about certain aspects that down the line we would need to have clarification on. So kind of there's like, you know, the emotional aspect that gets in there where you're just kind of like, it's just a lot of fighting, you know, which is happens with everybody. But
Akron Family may come together again someday. In the meantime, it's opened up the opportunity for each member to explore their own projects.
I don't know. It just felt good to kind of like take a break from it, and all of us just like have space to focus on our own projects. You know, Seth's doing Side Dune, Miles released a record with a label over in Italy recently, and me doing the Dana Buoy thing, or rather just Buoy.
Buoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun to kind of have that space.
Dana is starting to move back toward a more collaborative structure with his band. They are changing their name to reflect their growing unity.
You know, I feel like now that there's more of a collaboration going on with other members of the band who are consistent and playing with me all the time, we might need to change the name to just Buoy to make it a little more inclusive of everybody, you know?
Dana's last release, Preacher, was recorded primarily by himself. Moving forward, he's writing with his band. This includes Justin, Logan, and new member Joshua.
It's something I actually haven't quite figured it out, to be honest, because it's still relatively fresh. I mean, like mostly the things that we've been doing have been kind of just like getting the catalog in place and like working on the last 3 records that we have, making them presentable live, you know what I mean? And so outside of that, it's like I'm just trying to like kind of toy with some new ideas where like when we get down to the space and we start practicing, it's usually just playing, you know what I mean? Just kind of like getting going and just like playing, and then like throughout that we'll go for like maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours or whatever, and like kind of just see what happens and like really, you know, search for some things in a way, you know, and see if there's anything that we come up with that feels good that we want to turn into a song. Like Justin has a nice little recorder that he turns on and we record things, and we recently just went back to it, and it's funny to hear it like outside of the moment. Like when you're in the moment, you know, you're focusing on a certain thing that you're doing and you're listening to people, but it's harder to hear like the outside perspective of what's actually happening.
Buoy's sound is coming together in unexpected ways. Dana sees a lot of similarity with his experience with Akron Family.
And like when I listened back to it, I realized that a lot of the things we were doing the other day had like a super heavy Fugazi vibe to it, and I had no idea that would be like a thing, like an influence that came out in our music, you know, because it's you know, it's mostly the songs are like just tropicore, you know, like super positive, feel good vibes. Mm-hmm. But to hear that aspect of it was really interesting because it opens up a lot of new, you know, directions that we can go in, and like just pieces of like sound that we can use and put together. Like it's something with Akron Family that I really appreciated was the ability to kind of use, not necessarily like genre jumping. It's just like we're doing different like elements of like, or using influence from different elements to, you know, put together into this big melting pot of music and make it like a nice, interesting sound that has a lot of different perspectives, you know.
myself my identity. No direction seems too clear. Only thing I know is that we started here. My design was based on an interest in you. This abundance and inviting news. I never thought you'd expose me so. I'll cover my wounds, you fear the truth. Let's start a war. Let's start a war. Let's start a war. Let's start a
That was Let's Start a War from Portland band Dana Bowie's last EP, Preacher. If you're just joining us, I'm Jenny Wren Stotrup, and you're listening to Gritty Birds on KXRY, Portland X-Ray FM, 107.1 and 91.1. Today I'm talking to Dana Bowie. Dana finds he has a wide influence to his music. We spent a little time talking about his favorite artists, which include Fugazi, The Grateful Dead, Paul Simon, and Fela Kuti. Who are some of the other people who in bands that have influenced you as an artist, as a writer?
Yeah, no, I love like Paul Simon. Like lyrically, I think that he's been. The thing that's interesting about him is the way that he can say things like so earnestly, but have them come across musically too. It's really great. I think it's beautiful. He's been a big influence on me. The Grateful Dead. I've always loved what the Grateful Dead have done. It's a shame that they were lumped into turned into this like jam band scene that's out there now that like in my opinion has nothing to do with the nature of that band. You know,
when you hear so much of the Grateful Dead's music, it's not at all what you listen to a song and say, "Who is that?" And someone says,
"Oh, it's the Dead."
"Oh, that's the Dead," and you're like,
"What?" No,
what?
totally, yeah.
Because they are, as you think of the collective that has continued to be active in producing music in Northern California, etc. It's really diverse, and they're some of the greatest artists that have ever.
It's true.
Done anything.
No, yeah, the things that they did were just like, it's wild, man. I mean, to me, they always were like a punk band, you know, in their original days, like the early things. I was like, this is like a rock and roll, like a punk band, like a good, you know, like anti-establishment kind of like, you know, with the whole like acid vibe that was happening then. And it was just very like rebellious and fun. And like, and then it turned in the 90s, like Fish came around and kind of helped turn it into this thing that's like very, you know,
very Fish-like.
Huh?
Very Fish-like.
Very Fish-like, yeah. You're just like, kind of more bubblegum flavor, and you're just, wait, what's happening here? And then they quote Dead, and they are just like play Dead tunes and like wear their shirts, and that's great that that band reaches that audience. I think that's fantastic. I'm not trying to put them down by any means. What I'm saying is that I just feel like it should have been a little more clearly separated, like in the way that it just giving them more respect than kind of like a lot of people when they think Dead, they think like jam band, they think that, you know what I mean? Because like if you grew up with that as a jam band, yeah, it makes sense that you would think that. But anyway, so the Dead have been a big influence. Who else? I mean, what else? Fela Kuti is like one of my all-time just like...
Yeah.
Tony Allen. Like just like in terms of like the way that they get into just that like danceable trance kind of just like groove-oriented, like that was something to me that was always like as a drummer, like it was like it just made so much sense, and I was just felt really connected to it, you know. And so that has always been a big influence in what I was trying to do, trying to get things to be just, you know, elastic in a way that when you're playing it live, like you can have a studio version of a song, but when you're playing it live, like the Dead would do this a lot, where you just like, you give it space to kind of just, you know, play with it in the moment and make it more of a live thing. Like when you're in a room with people, it's a lot different when you're playing with someone there than it is when you're just playing to a machine to put it on a record, you know what I mean? So like really like having like the space to kind of like just play with the environment in the moment. And I feel like Afrobeat helps me to kind of like get into that zone, like the week, because it just, those songs go for like 10 minutes at a time, you know?
Powerful music usually has something that it's carrying with it.
Yeah.
Often.
Like that's a good point to bring up as a through line between those three bands that I was speaking of, Fugazi, Dead, and Fela, was like, they all had something to, stand for. And these days it's like, I don't know if I'm just like missing the narrative, but I don't necessarily see what things are standing for as much. You know what I mean? I'm not sure that we have, I'm sure that we do have plenty of causes that we can speak out on and like, fight for. But I don't know if I understand the narrative of what's going on with like a lot of this mainstream music, what they're actually like trying to say to people.
So fast with daybreak, focus, come, crest forming and breaking, past jetting, fisherman one, crack a cocoa, pull right up tree, true comfort so easily, go waiting, submerge your feet, this ocean.
That was Isla Mujeres from Portland band Dana Buoy's last EP, Preacher. If you're just joining us, I'm Jenny Wren Statrup, and you're listening to Gritty Birds on KXRY Portland X-Ray FM 107.1 and 91.1. Today, I'm talking to Dana Jansen, aka Dana Buoy. Dana spent a decade as a member of experimental group Akron Family, who developed out of Brooklyn in the early 2000s. He's working on a new record right now, which will be released under the name Buoy. Recently, Dana has been focused on his health. He loves to work out and has cut out the influence of drugs and alcohol.
It's something I've always kind of been into. When I was a kid, I was super into the Incredible Hulk, like every little boy, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know, for some reason Lou Ferrigno just stuck with me. And like, I don't know, he was the original guy, and you could see him and you're like, whoa, dude's awesome. He's terrifying, but he's awesome, and like, I don't know, it's just like a primitive thing to like kind of have this satisfaction of being able to like I don't know, just move a heavy object. I don't know. It just feels kind of good to me. Also, I recently stopped drinking, and so having a new perspective, like on, or actually being able to like recover from working out without having to recover from drinking, has been like something that I've seen the benefit of, and so like ever since that has started to like become like something I can see, I just got way into it, and I'm like now like down that every podcast hole.
He has found that sobriety has helped him as an artist as well.
Well, it's nice to have like a clarity, you know what I mean? Like I feel that I've been able to just get back into, like we were talking about doing morning pages recently, and like just getting back into things like that where I can kind of just like I wake up and I don't have to nurse a hangover, you know what I mean? And because I was like, I was on tour for 10 years, and it's hard because when you're on the road, it's easy to drink. It's there every day. It's free. It's what's happening at the place that you're at, and so like it was just, I just did it, and I just did it a lot, and it was difficult, but yeah, so like not having to like kind of deal with that aspect of waking up in the morning was just super liberating in the way that you can like kind of get up, feel good already, and then like have that time that you'd be sitting there like over a cup of coffee just like, oh God, what am I doing? You can like, do your morning pages and like get some thoughts out of your head, and like when you unplug that kind of, that creative avenue, it just helps to kind of like write my lyrics or like come up with like some sort of riff or a beat or something, and just really take that to the drawing table and kind of work with it. But yeah, so that's been good, and yeah.
Clarity of mind and regiment have become an important part of his artistic process. Your approach with your music, do you make sure that that's an everyday thing?
It's an exercise in the same way, you know what I mean? It's like mental exercises, morning pages, like physical exercises, you go to the gym, practice regimens, it's an exercise, and it's like because writing lyrics is just an exercise, if you like singing, it's an exercise. If you develop that muscle, you can do it better. If you write songs all the time, you can do it better. And so just like I try to keep like a nice focused plan in place throughout the week, so I'm at least getting like 2 or 3 days of like solid, just like whether it's guitar time, I do that. I do 5 days a week at the gym, so physically I can feel good. Morning pages every morning, you know what I mean? And so like just having all these things just in place, like as a practice, as a habit, it's like it just makes things so much easier when you like get inspiration in the middle of the day. Because I have a job at a coffee shop right now, and I'm like, if I'm like sitting there thinking about something, I can just grab my phone and write something down, go back to it later, and if I remember, and like kind of turn it into something a little bit bigger, or a song, or like whatever it is, you know what I mean? So that's been like super helpful, just kind of like organizing like just a plan, and like like I was saying, without drinking, I'm not like hazy, and so I can do it and execute it pretty well.
The music industry has shifted a lot since Dana started out with Akron Family. We had an interesting conversation about cutting through the noise as an artist. There are a lot of ways to go about this. It can mean a lot of different things to different people. How do you build those bands up? How do you find the labels? How do you cut through the noise? Like you were talking about finding the label. And I think that's one of the things that's challenging is this shifted world.
Yeah.
And how we can continue to have that voice cut through the noise so that real artists, and I'm not saying that none of those people are real artists.
Sure.
I mean like people who started in their basement are able to have access to
have a platform and a voice. And I mean that's the beauty of the internet too, is that like I mean if you can think of a clever way to present it, you can get like what was it? Clap your hands, say yeah. Not that that's like the
I bought that CD.
Exactly.
That was the first mail order CD I ever bought.
Exactly.
I wish I still had it.
Right, totally.
But I
mean,
left
a band
it when
like
I left
that,
the Midwest. Yeah.
A band like that, it's like it's not that they're like the voice of the generation that had something to say by any means. I mean, maybe they are, but I mean, they had like they figured out a way to just like engage a platform like the internet and just kind of turn a bedroom record into like something way bigger than it ever was supposed to be. And so I mean, that's great. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny. It's a weird place that we're in right now. I mean, I think that there is a value like to like having like the right narrator tell the story, you know what I mean? Like because a good voice is something that immediately connects with people, and it's very easy to grasp, it's easy to understand. And so like Elton John and Bernie Taupin, for example, when like Bernie had a lot of great lyrics, or the Dead had a ghostwriter too, and like they were someone who wrote, like Robert Hunter wrote the lyrics, and like you have just someone with a great voice like Jerry or Elton, singing a song, and I just feel like it helps to just translate it so much better, And I mean, maybe that's part of the idea with like your pop stars these days that kind of do that, but I don't think that the lyrics are necessarily.
There's a lot of people who write with people. So, like for example, on my record, I developed a couple songs that my producer had, and we worked on those together and kind of like made them ours. But it was wonderful to be able to write with somebody. Or, I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
And being able to, I think there's a lot of value in that. That's
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
But and like you said, you like the collaborative nature.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's part of the thing that excites me about now working with Josh is that he's got such a great voice that it instantly kind of like makes like you hear his voice and you're just like, oh yeah, he's got a great voice, you know, and it can like help to really like say these things to people and like have it resonate with them pretty quick, you know, because a lot of times when I'm hearing like a singer that I'm not necessarily as excited by his voice or her voice or whatever, it's like it takes me a minute to get past that to like then try and engage the songwriting part of it, you know. So, you know, but I mean, Bob Dylan was like, you know, classic example of amazing lyrics, and his voice was, I love his voice, but a lot of people think are like, well, Bob Dylan is a singer, what, you know, but he is, and it's great, but it's, you know, I don't know.
Dana's happy with the band's new direction as Buoy and their upcoming record.
I'm excited to get this new record out because it's got such a nice direction for like all the music. Like we played a lot of it the other night at the show, and I feel like it just has a better, you know, like band sound, you know what I mean? It's not so much just a guy in his bedroom. It's more of like an actual band, which is exciting for me because like, you know, collaborating with people is one of the best parts of making music, you know? Like everything you find, it's like most often by accident, and you just stumble upon something better than you would have, you know, ever thought you could do on your own, you know? And so that's fun, and it's nice that this new music is highlighting that aspect of it.
In 2014, the band toured with Sylvanesso. They played Treefort this spring and will likely be touring more next year. They're currently shopping their new album. It's been a leap of faith finding the right outlet.
I'm working with a manager who lives in Los Angeles, a company called Everloving, and the girl I work with is Courtney. She's a great girl, and so together we're kind of just like approaching labels, you know what I mean? Like using the context that we have, like people that I've met through the industry in the past, you know, through Akron's run, but it's been hard. Like I feel like records these days, if it's not like a band that's already established or like just an absolute slam dunk, which I think it is, but maybe not to somebody else, they're reluctant to kind of like invest any money in it because, you know, sales of records are not nearly what they used to be, and there's no telling what is or isn't going to sell, you know? I mean, if you knew, you could bottle and sell it and boom, you've got it. But so it's been really difficult to kind of get someone enthusiastic to kind of just take a chance and jump on board with us. And so that's a bit frustrating. And it, you know, it's in some ways it's like you can look at it as an opportunity to try something new and different and just like go the whole like self-release route and just like, you know, to quote Seth Godin, like focus on your tribes and really kind of just like, you know, invest in the group of people that you have at the moment who already know your music and like are really into it, and just kind of try and like build that audience from there. And I mean, that seems to make the most sense, and we're trying to do that, but just like, you know, figuring out new ways to kind of engage people has been a lot of work, and so and that's fine. I'm happy to do it. It's just, you know, it takes time. It takes more time than I thought it would.
Keep your eye and ear out for the band in coming months. Grounded in his art, band, and life, Dana Buoy's upcoming album will be worth the wait. You're listening to Gritty Birds on KXRY, Portland X-Ray FM, 107.1 and 91.1. My name is Jenny Wren Stotrup. Gritty Birds is on every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today's episode featured Dana Jansen, aka Dana Buoy. We featured Island by Akron Family and the tracks Let's Start a War and Isla Mujeres from Dana's 2014 EP, Preacher. Tune back in next week as we take a virtual trip to Chicago to talk about sponsorship in music with sponsorship guru TJ Anarino of Goose Island Brewing. Want to support the show? Subscribe on iTunes and leave a comment. You can also follow Gritty Birds on social media at GRITTYBIRDS. I want to hear from you. This is KXRY, Portland X-Ray FM, 107.1 and 91.1. Radio is yours.